Balls. I'm your host, Marcus Beer, and I have stolen the mic from...
Yo, what the hell's going on here, man? We're back, dude.
Hi, Shane.
You guys are trying to record without us. What's up with that?
You know what? People seem to like it, dude, and, you know, we have to pay for your bail from Japanese jail, you know, somehow, and...
Well, I am back. We are back from Tokyo Game Show. It was quite a trip, quite a show. We'll definitely be talking about that a little later. Definitely want to mention that tonight on Game Trailers TV, we have an awesome blowout on Call of Duty World at War, unveiling some brand new areas, also unveiling the death cards from the game, which are very similar to the skulls from Halo 3, and we'll be talking about the effects of the death cards. We also have a brand new level from Mirror's Edge in the show tonight, so be sure to check it out. 1 in the morning on Spike TV.
Call of Duty heads back to World War II with Kiefer Sutherland, and only we've got exclusive new details.
First, we're going to talk about Tokyo Game Show. I think we may have all finally gotten over the jet lag. So what were your overall impressions of the show? Justin, what did you think? This was your first TGS, so what were your impressions?
I guess maybe it had been built up a little bit, but I was expecting it to be a little bigger and a little crazier.
Yeah.
I suppose I think the natural trend is that each year they maybe are a little tighter on media access and as far as getting in lines and your access to things. So we had a few headaches to get the coverage, but I did see some cool stuff there. I saw some personal things I wanted to see.
You were right in your wheelhouse there.
Huh? Well,
and for those of you who can't see what's going on, Justin just made some very interesting hand movements.
No Bumpy Trot this year, though.
Yeah, where was Bumpy Trot?
Yeah, I worry for Bumpy Trot. It wasn't on their TGS page after the last show. I was like, oh.
That's a good sign.
But Concept DS looks pretty awesome. King of Fighters 12 looked really good, super awesome. I wanted to see something like that for a long time, an HD, 2D fighter. That's not Guilty Gear. I like Guilty Gear too, but
yeah.
And the Guilty Gear guys had Blaze Blue there.
Yeah, Blaze Blue.
Pretty good.
Blaze Blue drew a huge crowd, man. Every time they played it, there was 30 or 40 people standing around just watching, and it wasn't even a kiosk. It was just like a TV in the middle of the walkway. It was so ghetto.
Oh, I saw some arcade cabinets down there.
Oh, I didn't see any. I just saw a little demo, right out in the walkway with just a TV sitting there and guys playing, and people were eating it up. So definitely getting some traction with that game there. What about you, Bloodworth? What did you think? Also your first TGS.
Yeah, well, to me it was kind of like old E3, basically, and it's just that, since I wasn't there on the public days, it was a lot quieter and it's a lot easier to get things done. As always, I think it's really cool, some of the stuff we managed to snag on camera, that still isn't available any other way, like the Castlevania teaser. We sat there for 30 minutes filming this, and we're like, okay, are they actually going to show something new or not? And then they did.
Yeah, we're the only people who got the Castlevania Next Gen teaser. And we're also the only people who got the brand new level of Resident Evil 5. Because again, we just sat there watching their stage show, bored out of our minds, just hoping. And then we got it. So.
And people don't call you journalists. You were there, you waited, you persevered. I'm very proud of you.
We did. I think my overarching impression of the show is that just in general, a lot of the Western journalists were just so down and negative. Everyone I ran into was like, I can't wait to get out of here. I've had it with this place. And that was the second day. They're there's nothing here.
I definitely didn't feel like that. I mean,
there's
interesting stuff everywhere, but as far as being blown away by huge new announcements, I mean, I guess Halo was Halo Recon. You're like, really?
Yeah.
Yep. TGS.
The big announcement from TGS.
New Halos. So.
I mean, in general, the business days, and this is speaking from the perspective of someone who's gone a bunch of times, it was definitely a lot smaller, business-wise. And I think a big part of that is, there are so many trade shows, and so many of them were butted up so close to TGS this year that I think a lot of journalists looked at the expense of going to Tokyo, and it is friggin' expensive. I think we paid, $14 for a glass of orange juice at our hotel?
Yeah, you guys.
$14 for a glass of orange juice at our hotel.
It's one of the nicer hotels, though, still.
Even so, man, that's insane. That's how expensive Tokyo
Was
is.
it squeezed between the ass cheeks of a geisha or something?
I wish. No, it was just $14 for a glass of orange juice. So I think a lot of journalists from Europe and things like that were like, spend $60,000 to go cover TGS when it's the same stuff we just looked at, a month ago.
Plus, you had BlizzCon going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And
and Leipzig, I think, is still relatively new as far as how big it is.
Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of those people probably played their cards right. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of new information coming out of the show. There weren't any big game debuts. Where was Team Eco's game?
Right.
I mean, if you're not going to show it, if you're going to show it, you're going to show it there. It's like, why would they wait? They've been working on the game for 3 years. So we ended up with some egg on our face there because we gave it most anticipated game of Tokyo Game Show, and we continue to anticipate.
Yes.
We talked last week when we were looking at the media coming in, and we were saying that the attendance figures were down on the business days. Now after we recorded and went live, they released the open to the public days, and they were up a phenomenal amount. So it did actually it was the most popular TGS yet. But everything we were hearing from you guys, from everybody else who we know, that it was very, very disappointing.
The open to the public days were still utter insanity. Like, they have the whole cosplay thing going on in between the two halls, and there's no room to walk around. On the fringes around the edges of the booth there is, but in the middle it's literally just shoulder to shoulder, like you're walking through a concert, like the whole time.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of just like hundreds and hundreds of guys looking up at a screen, or I didn't see what they were looking at. Perhaps it was Keely Hazel, who's up on the wall again this week, undressing to something from Wii Music. But yeah, I mean that looked insane. And then you counterpointed it with the pictures coming from the business days, where you could have swung several cats.
Well, the funny part was the Sony booth. All their M-rated games were sort of sectioned off into their own section of the booth. And you had to show your ID.
Every time you went through, even if they just saw you.
Every time. You had to show your ID. Then you walked through this door, and then back behind the booth, there was this network of things like you'd see at an amusement park ride.
It's like, stalls, and then you get in line.
Yeah, you'd walk back. They'd ask you what game you want to see, and they'd give you a ticket for that game. And then you'd go queue up behind that game. Then they'd hustle you into the room, and literally, it was like a horse barn. Like, each game was set up inside a stall like it was a horse. And you go and, check out the game, and then they'd shoo you out. It was the weirdest setup I've ever seen.
Were there holes cut in the walls? I mean, were you actually still in TGS, or did you wander into a certain disreputable video store?
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to see another M-rated game, you had to get back in the line, show your card again, get another ticket.
I'm sorry,
And this
that's
was on
just
the media
stupid.
day when there was, nobody there. There's no one in line, and we're making a stand in this line, and I'm like, there's nobody here. It's like, just let us go see your game so we can cover them. But
Well, again, I think Tokyo Game Show is following the model of E3 and totally screwing the pooch, and it's going to be Leipzig is the only decent show to go to.
I mean, if you're Japanese, I think the public days there are great because the show does cater to the Japanese market. There's lots of RPGs, strategy games, lots of DS games because the DS is so huge there. So I think if you're from Japan, you're probably enjoying the show a lot more than we did when we went.
Still a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I'll give it a B.
Oh,
Great. Great. He dance better than my dad, at
much
least.
appreciated.
All right, next we're going to talk about Fable 2. In fact, we're talking about 3 games that start with F today. We're talking about Fable, we're talking about Fallout, and we're talking about Far Cry. First, we're going to start off with Peter Molyneux's response to all the angry fans over the first Fable.
I understand you're the one who played Fable 2, so maybe we should introduce you. So tell us, Shane, what did you think of Fable 2?
I haven't finished it yet. I'm actually, I think, on the last boss. I like it. It's fun. I think the first third of the game, I never died. It definitely has some issues with ramping up the difficulty. But I think one thing we do on this show is we always bitch about the stuff we don't like instead of talking about the stuff that we do like. So definitely want to talk about some of the things that I do like and I'm impressed by first. First of all, the dog. The dog is definitely the best dog ever in a video game, I'd say, at least as a sidekick versus like a main character. He basically takes all the tedium out of the game. So typically in these games, you're always like going around behind staircases to look for treasure chests or keys or whatever. You don't have to worry about doing all that stuff because as soon as he gets within about 50 yards, it'll start barking. And then he'll lead you to either a place where he can dig something up or a treasure chest where you can get treasure. So
That's cool.
Does he go get it himself?
He won't get it himself. He'll show you where to dig, and you have to take out a spade and dig it up.
Lazy bastard.
Or he'll lead you to the treasure chest and you open it.
I was going to say, dogs can dig.
Yeah. Well, it's still better than having to like find it all yourself is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like about 4 hours into the game, I was like, thank God I'm not like constantly scouring every little nook and cranny of these levels to try to find this stuff. So
Yeah, especially like in a game like Okami where the draw distance wasn't far enough and you had to like walk up to every little
Right.
outcropping.
it works really well, and you do get attached to the dog because the dog fights for you. You can't specifically tell it what to do, like attack that guy or use a specific attack. It just sort of does it automatically. A lot of times once you knock someone to the ground, the dog will jump on top of him and kind of finish him off. So he defends you. You know, you can use him to impress the people that are in the different towns or women because he'll do like dog tricks with you. and some of the women specifically like dog tricks. So if you want to charm a woman, like you can use the dog to charm a woman.
Can you put pink bows in his hair for the women?
Yeah, yeah.
And does he keep you warm on those long, cold, lonely nights when you're on the road?
Yeah, I didn't sleep the entire time in the game, so I don't know if the dog sleeps with you or not. Another thing I really like about the game is the combat's definitely improved over the last time. It's actually, at least later on in the game, it becomes relevant as far as like having tactics and things like that. The first game, I think I was able to button mash my way pretty much through the whole game. You could span a couple magic attacks and make it through the whole way. This time you get attacked by like 10 or 12 guys at a time, and you really have to really think of your strategy. You really have to think about how you cast your spells. Because basically how the spells work is there's 5 different levels of spells, and the longer you hold in the spell button, that's the different spell that you will cast. So stacking your spells intelligently is really important. So what I did is I'd start off with a level 1 slow down time attack. So I'd cast that at first to slow all the enemies down. Then I'd cast Raise the Undead, which would brings up like monsters out of the ground to help fight for you. And what they do is they distract the enemies so that you can take your time trying to attack them while they're worried about the undead that you raised. And then say the third attack, you use something that actually harms them. So the third attack I would use like Shock or something like that. And the Shock will attack all the enemies at once. So basically you get a jump on the enemies by stacking your spells in that way so that it takes a lot of the tedium out of the game as well. Of course, another big part of it is all the social aspect of it, charming people, gaining renown, gaining favor with people.
Yeah, tell us about your orgies.
Yeah, I didn't really have any orgies. I did sleep with a prostitute at one point. I couldn't really figure out how to do it at first, but I eventually sorted
Did she
it
help you
out.
along?
Was that a honeymoon flashback?
Yeah. The conversation stuff is pretty much the same as the last time. Certain people like to hear certain things or see you do certain expressions. All the expressions are kind of lame in that they're all like stupid like button timing things, and they get old after a while, but you have to keep doing them. So you have to either find more or buy more of them. And then my one big complaint, and I know it says on all the documentation that they've given us that they've added the acorns to the game, so you could plant your own trees and come back and they grow, but that is actually not the case. There's one big acorn that you basically save in the game, and then that grows into one huge tree, but you can't per se just walk around the environment, hey, I want a tree here, I'll plant a seed, I'll come back a year later, and there's going to be a tree there. That still doesn't work. But
maybe it's metaphorical. Maybe you're the acorn, and maybe you blossom throughout the game into this sturdy oak with many branches or some such crap.
Well, that could be. I'll say one thing. When I realized I was at the end of the game, I couldn't believe it, because the game had really just started to take off, in my opinion, whenever it came to an end. So it's definitely short. Again, I had to play it for review. I did not do a lot of the side quests. Conceivably, you could probably play it for all eternity.
Well, I had heard that, after you finish the game, you can go back and they're like, here's the world, all the side stuff's still there, you can go around and do whatever. So, that's always...
How long did you play it for?
Probably about 9 or 10 hours.
Holy jeez, that's nice. So the question, there's a lot being said. Molyneux disappointed with the first Fable. Is this everything he promised that Fable 2 was going to be? That's all I'm concerned about.
It is everything that he promised Fable 2 would be. He still hasn't delivered on some things that he promised would be in the first Fable.
He's getting better, though.
He's getting better. His expectations have been managed this time. He has pretty much delivered on all of his promises for this game.
Peace, freedom, and bacon and eggs. Seems perfect. But what if it's not?
All right, next we're going to talk about a little game called Fallout 3. And holy crap, here are all the big games.
Yeah,
Here they come. I'm almost sad right now thinking about the fact that in a month from now, they'll all be out.
Prince of Persia is going to sneak into December.
They'll give me something to play in December, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, actually, based upon Fallout, I may be playing this till next December, right?
You may well be, and the other thing is there's going to be games that you've played through for review from side to side to end, and you can go back and do the side quests and stuff like that. So
Right.
you will get away without having to speak to your family this Christmas. Don't worry.
So what's up with Fallout? I have not played much, if at all. Ryan Stevens has just stepped in to give us his expertise on the game.
Hi, everyone.
He and Grumpy have both been playing it. So what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I'm friggin' loving it, which really surprised me because I hated Oblivion. I really did not like Oblivion at all. Maybe I was sick of the swords and sorcery stuff. I was getting.
No, I'm in that camp too. So tell me why I'm going to like Fallout, but I didn't like Oblivion.
So I'm a big fan of the post-apocalyptic theme, and I like the way they sort of split off the timeline where it's taken the values from the 1950s Middle America and sort of stuck that in a little capsule and then fast-forwarded us 250 years. All these cute little touches, but then just being able to wander around this vast environment. It's very, I hate to use the word dystopian, but it's very Mad Max. It's like an RPG version of Mad Max, where you've got these little colonies dotted around the place, and you've got the mutants, you've got all these freaky people.
Tina Turner.
Tina Turner's in there, yeah.
Master Blaster.
Indeed. Well, not quite, but no, I mean, that's what sucked me in originally, and I like the way they present it, where you literally start the game at birth. The birth of your character, and you can make these little things back and forward. For example, if you want to, be a boy or a girl, it's you're born, and it says, what is it? Is it a boy or a girl? And then you make your choice. It's, it's a bouncing baby boy. And then you talk about, let's see what you're going to look like when you're older, and then you go into that way of putting together your character. Those are great little touches, and then you skip through the various years, until you get out of Vault 101. And then when you're outside, it's just such a vast environment. You'll learn pretty quickly where you're not qualified to go. But I've been, I've clocked up about 20 hours so far. I'm only at level 6 because I've been, exploring like crazy, and it's really sucked me in. In fact, as soon as we finish this, I'm pissing off home to go play it again.
Wow, that's a good sign. What about you, Stevens?
It's pretty good. I'm wondering if I'm been slightly soured with working on the Fallout retrospectives, where I had to go through Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 in half a day.
Right.
I am loving the game. There's definitely a couple of little quibbles that I'm having, like the whole VAT system. And again, my time with Oblivion was probably around 3 or 4 hours, where I got kind of the gist of it, and I realized I could sink a lot of time into it that I didn't have to invest at that time. Mm-hmm. The VATS thing I think is kind of interesting, because it kind of it's a real-time game, but it kind of puts a turn-based mentality into it.
Definitely.
Because it's definitely not a first-person shooter. I'm definitely not shooting people without VATS. I am, but I mean, for the most part, if I can run and cover, I'll hide and try to avoid being shot at and let my action points go up. I think if people are looking at this and thinking they're going to be able to play it as a shooter, which it's not, but I think they'll be very, very disappointed on the reflex
Do you think
angle.
that they've sold people on the fact that people think it may be a first-person shooter?
Let's say, have you played in third-person mode? It's pretty impossible.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's pretty much just to check out what you're wearing.
Yeah,
and you can wear a lot of cool stuff. I got some sexy lingerie and some cool stuff.
And you're playing as a 400-pound Afro-American man, yeah?
I got a really bad skater haircut where it's shaved on one side and green hair.
Yeah, we're
and
talking
I
about
a guy super pale. He's pretty hideous.
Dude, we're talking about in-game now, not real life.
I'm really only 3 feet tall.
But
in real life.
you should definitely not play in a third-person mode. It is, as I said, totally impossible. But with the right weapon, just like anything, I mean, with the right weapon, the aiming does take a little bit of getting used to. But I've been taking on some super mutants with the minigun and even the combat shotgun, and I've been able to blow some heads off and decapitate people without using VATS.
Finally found a sniper rifle, and that was one case where using the real time is definitely a lot better than using the VATS.
Yeah.
The VATS is fun, you can fight ants, and instead of just shooting them in the head, you can shoot them in the antenna, and then they get all messed up and they'll frenzy and go crazy.
That's
or
cool.
Like a robot, you shoot them in their CPU, which is on their back, and they'll go crazy too.
Yeah,
so
you can shoot,
there's definitely a strategy.
People's arms and their weapons go flying, and they come at you, then try to butt you and stuff. So that aspect of it is working out, and it's a lot of fun. And I've actually started to move away a little bit from VATS, except when I'm up against something humongous. The other thing I really enjoyed was the whole repair aspect, being able to, if you pick up half a dozen, 10mm guns, you can repair them and combine them, and he basically whittles down in your pack and improves the quality of your shots.
Yeah,
same with armor.
Totally ignored that. I'm making my guys more kind of stealthy lock picking, so a lot of pickpocketing people, picking locks, hacking computers, and stuff like that. That's where my focus has kind of been.
That's great that you have the opportunity to choose which way you want.
Well, that's
to
what's great about Fallout is out of all the stats, everyone matters, even luck.
Yeah.
Every single statistic is important. This game's a little more transparent than the last Fallouts, where you could get different dialogue options based on your stats. Here it will be agility, it will even tell you in your dialogue options. So it's a little more revealing, and it shows you more of the inner clockwork of what's happening.
My question to you guys is, what kind of person is this game going to appeal to? Because it seems like it's kind of caught in between. It's not fantasy enough for the hardcore RPG heads to really dig it. It's not a shooter, so that crowd's kind of what am I going to do?
A lot of people bought Mass Effect that weren't really into
definitely going to appeal to the Mass Effect.
But that had the whole tactical shooting thing, and people are definitely going up with Rainbow Six and stuff like that.
I'd say it's actually it's a more enjoyable game than Mass Effect. It really is. I think the combat is easier to get into than Mass Effect, and I thought Mass Effect was fantastic, but I think this is much easier to get into. The stats thing is is very easy to figure out what's what, and it's a very flexible game. talk about open world sandbox for an RPG. You can go wherever the hell you want. You can be whatever the hell you want to be because they've got so many different permutations, and then different things kick in every 2 levels. So, so far, like I said, I've only got to level 6, and I know I've probably got another 3 weeks of playing before I get to, even halfway through the game. But I'm loving it. It's seriously giving me, some of the best value I've had out of any game this year. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, it's even more fun than GTA.
Wow.
But yeah, I definitely want to replay it with a different sort of character because like one of the great things about the old Fallouts was you could give yourself an IQ of 1 and all your dialogue options would be like gah and goo, and people would give you like IQ pills like I can't talk to you here, take one of these.
Right. And that's the interesting thing again is that me and Ryan are at almost at the same level, but he's done quests that I haven't found yet, and vice versa because I've gone off into different areas. So he's saying, "Have you done X, Y, and Z?" And I'm like, "Where the hell was that?" Or have you picked up the dog yet? And I haven't been anywhere near that. So, the fact that, I'm going to go back and replay this with a different style of character and just notice more stuff, is always a good sign for me. So, even though this isn't an official review, because we're not allowed to review it yet, I would encourage anybody to go get this.
Good impressions all around the house.
Yeah, pick up a Pip-Boy.
Absolutely.
Next, we're going to talk about the third F, and that is Far Cry 2. Justin, you've been playing that game for review. I have to admit, every time I walk by the room and see you playing it, it always looks the same.
Well, you're always in Africa.
You're always ducking behind grass, shooting something that's catching on fire.
There's a lot of fire too. Yeah, there's no ice level. Yeah, no lava level. Just the Africa level.
The carnival level, maybe.
But what was that fourth F? I'm trying to think. Anyway. It's fighting, fleeing. Well, I guess it really is.
Farting and f***ing.
Farting, I guess, is often overlooked.
No, that's Fable.
With the gestures. Yeah, so, I don't know. It's kind of like first-person GTA-esque in a wide,
is it really
wide
GTA?
open space.
I mean, I didn't see you running up and jacking some fool for his car.
That's because you can't run in the game because you've got the crabs or herpes or some sort of other disease.
You got malaria. But no, you totally can do that. You can totally shoot people. There are tons. One of the things about the game, I guess I'll get out of the way. There are tons of dudes out there in pickup trucks with machine guns mounted on them, and they will freaking chase you down with their mounted things. They're called technicals, which is they don't say that in the game.
Technically.
Yeah, I just threw out the term.
That's actually true.
But basically, it's like they're used in a lot of wars, people without the huge budgets. You get a pickup truck, you slap a mounted gun in it, and then you terrorize people with your freaking machine gun turret. So that happens a lot. You're driving around the road or walking, people just roll up on you with a thing, and you'll be like, God damn it.
And you're screwed.
That's actually
unless you have one, and then you jump into your own turret, and you turn around, and you shoot the guy in the face, and then the driver gets out, and you shoot him in the face.
Dead Rising have one of those?
So there is a lot of that.
But that's actually a genuine thing. When I worked on Black Hawk Down, we actually had them in there because that's what the Somali militia would do. They get the pickup trucks, bolt a 50 cal on it, and that's what they call technicals. And the way to counter that is do the engine block shot that the U.S. military developed. But sorry to go off, but he's right.
Can you mention fear?
I did that last week. Have I mentioned Pool of Radiance, the ruins of Myth Dranor?
Come on, there's an old Novalogic game that relates it somewhere.
I just said Black Hawk Down.
That's right.
Sorry.
So anyway, but yeah, vehicles are really important. You cover a ton of ground in the game. Eventually, you get. It's kind of like GTA. The reason I brought that up is you do kind of take quests from people. You go to a location, you get a mission, you go out and achieve it. You can kind of level up your safe house. You can get a technical of your very own.
You have a garage.
You can get the gun upgrade on it. There are no people don't bother.
Can you pimp your technical?
There's no point.
Sweet rims?
No.
Can you pimp out your technical?
You can't get. I did get an upgrade, and you get a larger caliber gun on your pickup truck. But there is a lot of travel. There's a lot of wide open space. So,
how are the animals? I know people don't really care that much, but in all the trailers, I always thought they looked kind of interesting, like the herd sort of.
Well, they're smarter than some animals in that they will, they'll run away from you if there's gunfire. They'll run. They look pretty decent. It's no Africa, I guess, but Africa.
Will animals tip off enemies? Say an enemy is coming up behind you. If an animal comes running behind you or by you, are you like, oh crap, there's someone coming?
I hadn't had that happen. Usually, I think at night you don't run into too many animals at all, which is usually when you're trying to creep up on people. You can when you take a rest in the game. You can kind of set your clock, so you can get up in the morning or you can get up at night, And most of the time, I mean, you can play the game however you want. You can go in guns blazing in the daytime, which sounds like a PR line or something like that. But usually it's better I make it nighttime. I have like a silenced MP5, so I just get that, and you go in and you kill the people you need to, and then you do what you have to do.
Now, does the wildlife
get out
change
of
at
there.
night? Like, for instance, would you see like more lions at night because they hunt at night?
Not so much. The animals are not a super big focus.
Yeah.
I haven't had any animals prey on me.
That
I usually
sucks.
feel bad when I kill animals, so I try not to do it. And if one gets, sometimes they'll get run over by a Jeep that's chasing or something. So, I mean, they're there, so it definitely adds something to have some kind of wildlife that isn't, some dude with a gun trying to kill you.
Now, no superpowers in this one, right? You don't get the crazy leap.
Unless they're really holding something back, no, it's more like a realistic, realistic. It's a mercenary type thing.
So how does this stack up to Far Cry 1? Because Far Cry 1 was very linear. I mean, it was a great game. I really enjoyed playing it, but it was very linear to me. It was like go from point A to point B to point C to point E, and so on, or point D, whatever.
Well, they're not related
It's
at
a little-
all, right?
I mean,
they're
it's just in
not
name
really.
only, isn't it? It's a sequel in name only.
And I guess it's probably a different engine too.
No, it's definitely a new engine. Yeah.
So
Something that
yeah, it's
Ubisoft
a little
developed
different.
themselves,
But
yeah.
strangely enough, even though it's wide open, whatever, like GTA or whatever, it's still kind of a linear path. And I think it might even be more. You have to hit certain points. There are things you can choose to do in a different order, and there's things you can do that aren't necessary. But there is still an obvious story, and there are certain points of the story. They're like, look, this is what's happening. You're right here, and here you go, deal with it.
What's the motivation to do side quests? What would
Diamonds.
Well, yeah, you can get extra money. Like I said, you can get your safe house upgraded. They'll slap ammo there and stuff. Basically, the whole game is still about killing people. It's definitely a shooter. It's an action game, but you can do the side quests to get different options and new ways to shoot someone in the face with an AK-47.
So it's pretty much pointless to do side missions.
No, it's the side missions are pretty similar to the main missions, but sometimes you're just like, okay, I'm saving up for this new gun. You can buy guns and upgrades.
So that's where it all ties in.
Enemy weapons you can pick up, so you can pick up any kind of weapon, but usually they're like unreliable and they'll jam, they look dirty. So they encourage you to bank diamonds and then buy weapons that you can put in the storage bin and then use for your very own.
Gotcha.
I like it though. It's pretty cool. It's working out good. Kill people in the desert.
Oh,
and
shut up.
Grassland.
Not in the desert.
Jesus, we can't just shut him up now. Normally we can't get him talking, and now we won't shut up.
We can totally clip this part. I was trying to think of a good way to wind it up that doesn't just sound like, yeah, it's a game. But I mean, I really do.
All right, let's give it. Do you want to just sum it up? And we'll give you some quiet so I can edit it in. Just sum up the game.
No, I don't feel like doing that.
All right, fair enough. You gave me a shot.
I'm going to end this file.
Welcome to the jungle, amigo. You're here to crack some skulls, aren't you?
All right, thanks for watching, guys. Please go on to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Leave us some reviews if you feel like it. Definitely want to say thanks for watching the show. It's good to be back. I'm going to speak for all the crew when I say that.
Lying bitch.
No, it is good to be back on U.S. time and be back home where you don't have to have an adventure every time you try to eat something, right? Anyway, on behalf of all the crew here, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.